A good number of NBA stars have had their share of prison life based on various offenses and charges. Some of the crimes committed will shock you. Today, we take a look at the times NBA players served prison sentences. Keep watching to find out the times NBA players were sentenced to prison.
Papers up, bag my work up. My work being cocaine.
Kareem Butler. Kareem Butler is a popular name in the basketball world. However, he was also quite notorious during his early days. Kareem was arrested 15 times before he turned 15 years old for the illegal possession of narcotic drugs. He was sent to the juvenile detention facility to serve his sentences, where he eventually developed a strong passion for basketball. It was then Kareem decided to deal with his addiction and focus on working hard with the aim to one day play in the NBA, and he achieved that goal. Kareem would eventually kick off his basketball career with the Miami Heat and go on to help the Dallas Mavericks clinch their first NBA championship trophy. He went on to keep a clean record whilst also making the NBA draft. Kareem Butler retired from professional basketball in 2018 and is presently a professional basketball coach and assistant coach of the Miami Heat. He is also the owner of 6 Burger King restaurants where he once worked. Kareem also talks more about his basketball life and period in prison in this autobiography titled Tough Juice: My Journey from the Streets to the NBA, a great book which highlights his struggles with addiction and his journey into the NBA.
Like you said, it's not something I just, something like this just happens and I just move on or just forget about.
J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith may have taken the Cavaliers through to their 3rd consecutive NBA Finals. However, the Pistons weren't all he took down. On the 7th of June 2007, Smith and 2 passengers were involved in a car accident. Smith's SUV drove through a stop sign and had a head-on collision with another vehicle. Sadly, one of the passengers, Andre Bell, was eventually pronounced dead as a result of the severe injuries suffered from the crash. Luckily for Smith, he was unhurt and didn't incur any severe damage. Smith pleaded guilty to the charge of reckless driving and was consequently sentenced to 90 days imprisonment. He would later see his jail time reduced after an appeal with the condition of completing 500 hours of community service. Over the years, Smith has had occasional speeding tickets, 2 cases of reckless driving, as well as having his license suspended a couple of times. Perhaps he would have had success in NASCAR. After 16 years of professional basketball, Smith retired from the NBA in 2020.
When was the last time you did something wrong? Did you rob somebody?
It's just a bad rap on me. It's something that, I'll have to accept and deal with.
Allen Iverson. Iverson's basketball abilities and talent were certainly unquestionable. He soared to great heights from his high school years and made the NBA draft while still being in college. His 2001 MVP award highlights the incredible career he had. Unfortunately, these feats were stained with certain legal issues. While Iverson was still a teenager, he was arrested and detained for 4 months due to him being present in a fistfight that took place at a bowling alley. A few years later, during his 2nd year in the NBA, the former Philadelphia star got himself in trouble with the law again. Iverson was arrested for the charges of speeding and illegal possession of narcotics and firepower. He pleaded guilty and got a sentence of community service. Although there have been several other accusations and controversies surrounding Iverson over the years, none of these allegations have proven to be true. Iverson is definitely one of the most popular NBA stars that went to prison.
When I first got diagnosed with bipolar, my first response was, what does that mean? I had to look it up on Google. And that's my first time ever hearing that. I've been told I had an emotional problem.
Delonte West. For Delonte West, it was simply a situation of unfortunate timing when he found himself facing the wrath of the law. On the 17th of September 2009, West was riding his 3-wheeled motorcycle when he was stopped by an officer based on a traffic violation. It was during this stop that West was found to have owned multiple firearms. He was taken into custody and had a court hearing set for the 20th of November. West pleaded guilty to the possession of weapons and traffic violation, but alluded that he was moving the firepower to a safe location based on the instructions of his mother, who was concerned about his cousin's children's safety. He said the kids had stumbled on the weapons, even though they were hidden in the closet. West was then sentenced to a few days in prison and 40 hours of community service while also being placed on house arrest. Only a few months ago, West made the headlines again, and this time for well-provoked reasons. West was arrested and detained after storming into a Florida police department and loudly raining insults on the officers while presumably being under the influence of alcohol.
What's up? This is Sebastian Telfair, and I'm here to give you guys a pro tip. This is a drill that would definitely help your ball handling, your speed, and your control.
Sebastian Telfair. There was no denying that Sebastian Telfair possessed great talent and skill to make him one of the best in the game. Telfair was considered a top-class prodigy and highly rated by different sporting websites during his college years. He was eventually selected through a first-round pick of the 2004 NBA draft by the Portland Trail Blazers. However, his career did not go off in the manner many had presumed it would. In 2007, Telfair and his friend Al Eden Fuentes were arrested for illegal possession of firearms. This arrest occurred after the duo was stopped for speeding. About a decade later, as if to mark an anniversary, Telfair, together with another friend, was once again apprehended for the illegal possession of marijuana, 3 handguns, a ballistic vest, and a semi-automatic rifle. After 2 weeks of court hearing and proceedings, Telfair was found guilty and sentenced to 3.5 years imprisonment on felony charges.
So yeah, I said, how do you think peace is accomplished? He goes, I don't know. I said, through war. Win the war and then you have peace. Got it? All right.
Meta Sandiford Artest. Similar to Sebastian Telfair, Meta Sandiford Artest is another eccentric and controversial figure who led a life filled with drama and controversies. Also known as Meta World Peace, he was known for his occasional outbursts and aggressive playing style. He attributed his aggressiveness to his early beginnings and how witnessing a murder during a game of basketball toughened him up. Artest chose to legally change his name to Meta World Peace during the 2011-2012 offseason, but for all of his aggressiveness and eccentric behavior, it is almost impossible to miss the irony in the name, which is contrary to his personality. World Peace was once a chronic alcoholic and was once caught on camera drinking just before the commencement of the second half of a game in 2004. 3 years later, he was arrested on the basis of domestic violence and sentenced to 10 days in prison while also completing 100 hours of community service.
Stoudemire against Fisher. Gets to the elbow. Shot off. Patterson the slam with one hand.
Ruben Patterson. Patterson began his basketball career in a small town of Independence, Kansas, before transferring to the University of Cincinnati to further his studies. He had a few situations where he found it difficult to hold back words when he was displeased. Frequently, he directly lashed out at head coach Nate McMillan, expressing his displeasure on the scarce playing minutes that he was receiving. Patterson also demanded better treatment and refused to continue the game. He was later suspended from the squad for misconduct and poor behavior towards the then coach. The adverse highlights of Patterson's career were the number of court cases he faced and his conviction as a sex offender. He faced a series of court charges, some of which include an attempted rape on a nanny, misdemeanor conduct, battery and assault, and domestic abuse on his ex-wife. While Patterson didn't plead guilty to the charges against him, the jury still found him guilty and duly sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment. Luckily for him, the judge voided 350 days, and he served 15 days of his sentence while being placed on a 2-year probation. Henry James. You will find the case of Henry James quite amusing. Despite his relatively successful basketball career, the 6'8" former Cavaliers and Atlanta Hawks forward retired in 1996 and decided to take the Pablo Escobar route. James was apprehended in 2006 while trying to sell $750 worth of cocaine to an undercover police officer. He pleaded guilty to the charge of an illegal controlled substance and was sentenced to 5 years of federal imprisonment. His 6 children, of whom were under the age of 11, were also present when the deal took place. Maybe he had them as security guards. Someone definitely did not win Dad of the Year in 2006, though, that's for sure.
Isaiah trying to take Spud, and does. Nice handoff to Bedford for the jam. Isaiah's penetration.
William Bedford. From Roy Tarpley to Diego Maradona, oftentimes we see celebrities and athletes who find it difficult to let go of drug addiction even after retirement. William Bedford is a typical example of such a case. William's basketball career took off on a promising note. Getting selected in the first round of the 1986 NBA draft showed he was off to a positive start. However, the once promising career of the 7-foot man got hampered thanks to drug abuse. Shortly after his retirement, William Bedford was arrested twice on charges of illegal possession of hard drugs. He was then arrested in 2001 for what would be his most expensive crime, where he tried to transport 25 pounds of marijuana to the state of Michigan. This act earned him 10 years in prison before his release in 2011. William Bedford has an NBA record for making 3 or more three-pointers under 3 minutes. He also won the NBA championship in 1990. Presently, he's working on becoming a full-time basketball coach.
Best who ever done it, Keon Clark. Make sure you keep it together.
All right, boss. Keon Clark. Keon Clark left the NBA in 2004, and as soon as he did, he was flooded with various allegations and charges. From 2006, charges were mounting up, with some of them being the possession of illegal firearms and use of marijuana. He testified to having an alcohol addiction which he managed since high school, but that he never played an NBA game while being under the influence of alcohol. Clark was given a prison sentence of 8 years based on the illegal arms charges, but only served 4 years and was set free in mid-2017.
Best dunk in your career? Because I remember the one when you banged on the guy and then you were like pointing at him and all that stuff.
That was a good one.
Shawn Kemp. Although Shawn never won an NBA championship, he was beyond doubt a top player with massive qualities and abilities. Shawn was arrested on 2 occasions for different charges. In 2005, Shawn alongside another man was caught in the possession of about roughly 60 grams of marijuana, a semi-automatic pistol, and a small bagged amount of cocaine. About a year later, he was once again caught with possession of marijuana and taken into custody.
I saw Clyde got double teamed, and in that situation, it's a no-pressure shot. If we miss, we go to overtime, we're at home. I've been feeling good on my threes. I didn't get a lot of looks tonight, but that felt good.
Eddie Johnson Jr. Our list will not be complete without the mention of Eddie Johnson Jr., aka Fast Eddie. He was well known for his rapid pace and sharpness on the basketball court. Sadly, his defective off-the-court behavior dampened the athleticism with which he was known. Eddie played for a variety of NBA clubs and ended up racking up 2 nominations to the NBA All-Defensive Second Team. However, he only played in the NBA for 10 seasons before his career eventually fell apart after a suspension by the NBA on use of hard drugs. After an unsuccessful attempt to return to the NBA in 1987, Eddie continued his consumption of cocaine while also getting involved in other social vices and misdeeds. One of his numerous charges includes the molestation of an 8-year-old girl. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Other crimes involved burglary, drug abuse, unprovoked violence, sexual assault, robbery, and many more. Yup, all these things happened. He eventually died on the 26th of October in 2020 of an undisclosed illness. Eddie's life after basketball became quite miserable and took a declining trajectory of which no one expected early on in his career.
He began to feel like something wasn't right.
The offense involving Robert Wilkes. The court sentences you to serve a term of 5 years.
Jail sentences are relatively common in the NBA. We think it's safe to say the basketball court wasn't the only court these players stepped in. If you enjoyed this video, then you will like our other video about scandals the NBA doesn't want you to know about.